It was a Saturday afternoon in May, and I suddenly realized that the next day was Mother's Day, and I hadn't gotten anything for my mom. So I started thinking about what should I get my mom for Mother's Day. I thought, well, why don't I make her an interactive Mother's Day card using the Scratch software that I'd been developing with my research group at the MIT Media Lab. We developed it so that people could easily create their own interactive stories and games and animations, and then share their creations with one another. So I thought this would be an opportunity to use Scratch to make an interactive card for my mom. Before making my own Mother's Day card, I thought I would take a look at the Scratch website. So over the last several years, kids around the world, ages 8 and up, have shared their projects. And I thought, well, I wonder if of those 3 million projects, whether anyone else has thought to put up Mother's Day cards. So in the search box, I typed in Mother's Day, and I was surprised and delighted to see a list of dozens and dozens of Mother's Day cards that showed up on the Scratch website, many of them just in the past 24 hours by procrastinators just like myself. So I started taking a look at them. I saw one of them that featured a kitten and her mom and wishing her mom Happy Mother's Day. And the creator very considerately offered a replay for her mom. Another one was an interactive project where when you move the mouse over the letters of Happy Mom Day, it reveals a special Happy Mother's Day slogan. In this one, the creator told a narrative about how she had Googled to find out when Mother's Day was happening. And then once she found out when Mother's Day was happening, she delivered a special Mother's Day greeting of how much she loved her mom. So I really enjoyed looking at these projects and interacting with these projects. In fact, I liked it so much that instead of making my own project, I sent my mom links to about a dozen of these projects. And actually, she reacted exactly the way that I hoped that she would. She wrote back to me and she said, "I'm so proud to have a son that created the software that allowed these kids to make Mother's Day cards for their mothers." So my mom was happy, and that made me happy. But actually, I was even happier for another reason. I was happy because these kids were using Scratch just in the way that we'd hoped that they would. That as they created their interactive Mother's Day cards, you could see that they were really becoming fluent with new technologies. What do I mean by fluent? I mean that they were able to start expressing themselves and to start expressing their ideas. When you become fluent with language, it means you can write an entry in your journal or tell a joke to someone or write a letter to a friend. And it's similar with new technologies. By creating these interactive Mother's Day cards, these kids were showing that they were really fluent with new technologies. Now, maybe you won't be so surprised by this because, a lot of times people feel that young people today can do all sorts of things with technology. All of us have heard young people referred to as digital natives. But actually, I'm sort of skeptical about this term. I'm not so sure we should be thinking of young people as digital natives. When you really look at it, how is it that young people spend most of their time using new technologies? You often see them in situations like this or like this. And there's no doubt that young people are very comfortable and familiar browsing and chatting and texting and gaming. But that doesn't really make you fluent. So young people today have lots of experience and lots of familiarity with interacting with new technologies, but a lot less so of creating with new technologies and expressing themselves with new technologies. It's almost as if they can read but not write with new technologies. And I'm really interested in seeing how can we help young people become fluent so they can write with new technologies. And that really means that they need to be able to write their own computer programs or code. So increasingly, people are starting to recognize the importance of learning to code. In recent years, there have been hundreds of new organizations and websites that are helping young people learn to code. You look online, you'll see places like Code Academy and events like Coder Dojo and sites like Girls Who Code or Black Girls Code. It seems that everybody is getting into the act. Just at the beginning of this year, at the turn of the new year, New York City Mayor Michael Bloomberg made a New Year's resolution that he was going to learn to code in 2012. A few months later, the country of Estonia decided that all of its first graders should learn to code. And that triggered a debate in the UK about whether all the children there should learn to code. Now, for some of you, when you hear about this, it might seem sort of strange about everybody learning to code. When many people think of coding, they think of it as something that only a very narrow subcommunity of people are going to be doing. And they think of coding looking like this. And in fact, if this is what coding is like, it will only be a narrow subcommunity of people with special mathematical skills and technological background that can code. But coding doesn't have to be like this. Let me show you about what it's like to code in Scratch. So in Scratch, to code, you just snap blocks together. In this case, you take a move block, snap it into a stack, and those stacks of blocks control the behaviors of the different characters in your game or your story. In this case, controlling the big fish. After you've created your program, you can click on Share and then share your project with other people so that they can use the project and start working on the project as well. So, of course, making a fish game isn't the only thing you can do with Scratch. Of the millions of projects on the Scratch website, there's everything from animated stories to school science projects to anime soap operas to virtual construction kits to recreations of classic video games to political opinion polls to trigonometry tutorials to interactive artwork and, yes, interactive Mother's Day cards. So I think there's sort of so many different ways that people can express themselves using this, to be able to take their ideas and share their ideas with the world. And it doesn't just stay on the screen. You can also code to interact with the physical world around you.